All right, we've been following this New Orleans story very, very carefully with Will Smith, legendary local who did not forget where he was from, continued to help kids in the area, continued to come back here, was scheduled to be here, incredibly, was scheduled to be here this Thursday for a football dinner put on by the Observer-Dispatch as part of his foundation, and he just did not stop giving to this community. Of course, he was shot and killed over the weekend. Here is what we know. The man who's been charged in the shooting death, his name is Cardell Hayes. I'll refer to him as the shooter. There seemed to have been and again, his attorney is coming out and making some wild accusations, saying that there might have been a fender bender earlier in the night, that the shooter, if you will, was trying to chase down Will Smith's party, and there were at least 2 vehicles involved in that party to get a license plate. I just don't know how you could justify getting out of the car with a handgun and shooting into the car and killing Will Smith. There's just he was defenseless at that point. There is no justification, even though there might have been something that happened earlier, or words or threats. It doesn't matter. There's just no justification, I don't believe, for coming out and firing into a car. However, I guess we don't know the laws in Louisiana. Anyway, Cardell Hayes, known as the shooter. Here's where it got a little twisted. The shooter's father was shot and killed by New Orleans police about 11 years ago. There's been a lawsuit, and a settlement was given to the family. That's the shooter's family received a settlement. So the irony of this whole thing, where this very twisted coincidence comes into play, is one of the officers involved in the shooting of Cardell Hayes' father was having dinner with Will Smith on Saturday night at his party. So it immediately led reporters to ask the question, okay, is there a connection here? It's just too coincidental that Will Smith ends up being gunned down on the streets of New Orleans on Saturday night. And earlier that evening, he was having dinner with one of the officers and now Will Smith may never have known, probably didn't even know who this guy was, this Cardell Hayes, but we don't know that for sure. But the fact that they were having dinner, could there be a connection? Was this Cardell Hayes targeting Will Smith? Was he going after him? Was this part of something that was far greater than just a fender bender? Well, New Orleans police is saying no. They say that there is no connection, that this is a fender bender and a road rage moment that went bad. Let's listen to what they have to say from the police department. This is, of course, the police superintendent, Michael Harrison, and they gave their press conference yesterday, and here is what they had to say in that press conference about the connection. Crazy coincidence?
I guess we don't know. I guess at this point we don't know. It is an interesting coincidence that there was that connection, but we don't know at this point if it had anything to do with it. And in fact, we don't know. We talked about this last hour a bit, this other accident that happened where the shooter was apparently rear-ended himself earlier in the night, possible hit and run.
He's saying the attorney's saying more is going to come out. You're going to see that according to law, that this is a much different story than you know. I don't know that there's any justification. They could have been fist fighting 20 minutes prior, and there's still no justification to chase him down, rear end the vehicle, and then shoot into the car when he was driving away or he was sitting there in his car. It just didn't make any sense at all. A former now this actually her name is Caroline Harrell. She was an eyewitness, and she witnessed the actual shooting. Listen.
We saw the man advance with a gun in hand, and we heard the shots. It was probably about 6 to 8 shots that occurred.
And keep in mind that Will Smith's wife, Raquel, was also shot in that melee, and she was shot twice in the leg, but she was taken to the hospital afterwards. But just a senseless and terrible crime. I'm not sure what we're going to find that comes out of this, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure there's justification for shooting someone in the back. We'll find out more. The other thing that I wanted to make mention of over the weekend that was just horrific is social media is really an awesome tool but it's also a disgusting tool that is used. I mean, keeping in mind there's a family here. There are people who are family and friends distraught, not to mention that someone's just died here. The tweets that went out that said, thank God it wasn't I thought it was the actor. Thank God it wasn't him. Those tweets were going out all weekend long. And, clearly it's got to be, just kids out there tweeting, but that is just terrible. Family members and people have to read this crap. But that was out there as well over the weekend. At the end of the day, we've learned an awful lot about the things that Will Smith has done here in the area. So the foundation, the clinic that was done over, he would come into town and work with young kids because he felt that the football players in this area did not get the notoriety that they needed to be able to move on and possibly share the type of dream that he's been able to have.
Yeah, and we'll talk with Ron Mosier later this morning. There was, of course, where there's a will, there's a way foundation, and then additionally the camps that he would do. I had a chance he was in town, and I think this was going back maybe 3 or 4 years. I think he did these frequently, but I actually had stopped in and maybe taken some photos and done a write-up on one going back a few years. But, I mean, this was a camp that was free for the kids. Obviously, a tremendous opportunity to learn something from a very successful NFL player. And as you said, Bill, this was an opportunity he felt to really put them, kind of elevate their game a bit. Maybe they would get more attention, whether it be college or in the pros.
And we talked about this earlier, and we will be speaking with Ron Mosier. It looks like at 8:20, but we talked about it earlier that he was going to be in town this Thursday, and he was going as part of the football banquet that they do each year, and each year he came back. And we're getting word from Jerry Fiorini, his former high school football coach, that has been delayed. It looks like they're going to postpone that event, obviously, and really try to put something together that is a tribute to Will Smith. But I think I read in the paper today that it might have been Jerry that said, although Will would not want this to be a eulogy and something that was about him, he would want it to be still something that inspired kids. So I think the goal is to bring some of Will Smith's friends from the NFL back up here, and some of these people that have been up here in the past to continue this tradition of inspiring local kids and rewarding them for what they're able to do here in high school football and possibly beyond. Pretty incredible. We'll talk with a friend of Will Smith, someone that knew him from school, coming up. Here's Christine with an update, 7:46 right now.